You are watching Area DMG.
Do people have poems? Anyone has poems in the house? Yeah? Awesome. Very good. There's gonna be handfuls. I'll be able to get some poets up. Like I'll just put reciting poems from memory just because I have poems on memory. I might mess them up, but it's all good if you come up and read poems too. For me, as people are coming in, I'll just let you guys know my background in poetry, which I said in some other panels is, I've been writing poetry for a long time. Bless you.
Oh, thank you.
And I started a poetry venue in my living room over 20 years ago, in the 90s, and it was called DPL, Dante's Poetry Lounge, and I ended up bringing on some of my favorite poets, some of my best friends in the poetry world, a cat named Shihan, another poetry poet, and Brother Jamel, and it became DPL, Dub Poetry Lounge, and the Poetry Lounge is over 20 years now in LA, ended up becoming inspiration, which became Deaf Poetry Jam on HBO, which went to Broadway and got a Tony, and now DPL Poetry Lounge is one of the largest open mic venues in the country. It's the largest weekly open mic venue in the country, or I guess the world, because I guess America's a big place for poetry. But because I grew up doing poetry in the open mic way, one, I do poetry, like at cons or colleges and whatnot. A lot of times, I like to bring other poets to the mic because really it's not just about my stories. The way I grew up in poetry and the world of poetry is really, to me, it's just sharing stories. So I like to share my stories, but I also like to hear other people's stories, and that's relationship. You know what I'm saying? It's just we're storytellers. I guess a few more people coming in, so. So I'll be doing some poems, and then I'll just call out, because we don't have a list, I'll just kind of call out, and the brave ones that want to raise their hand and want to come to the mic and drop a poem are always welcome. And we'll just we have an hour, so we'll just kind of keep it rocking through the hour. We'll see if any more people come in, and we'll start as soon as they close that door. But y'all cool with that? Y'all good with that?
Yeah.
So let me just, so I know, how many poets are in the house that want to read a poem? All right, we have a good amount of poems. Yeah, good amount. Very cool. I'm excited. To see what's going down in Colorado. What's that life, that Colorado life. Looks like some more people coming in. How y'all doing? Hello?
Were you here for NPS?
No, what's NPS?
National Poetry Summit?
No, I wasn't, but our team was here recently. Oh yeah, the last one was here, right? Like
Yeah,
a month
I was
ago.
volunteering for it.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, DPL, we play our slam team plays second to San Diego, who's also friends of ours. But I heard about all the poetry drama when we got home. But we got second place. But over our years, we've had quite a few solo and team national slam champions. It's very weird. I don't slam. Although I do really like slam, and I really appreciate our slam team and other slam people and what slam has done for poetry. I don't slam just because I don't really like to compete in the poetry world. I'm an actor, so every audition is like a competition to get the job. And so when I do poetry, it's more of a place for me to just not think about competition, just kind of think about story, think about for me, poetry has always been a place for me to digest my life. It's like we all live a lot, busy, crazy lives, and I travel a lot and working and shooting stuff, and every now and then you just gotta kind of sit back and kind of digest your life and write about it. At least I do. So it looks like some more people are coming in, and then we can get this started. I didn't realize there was a big pole right here. I don't know what that is. It's just a big old blank spot for people behind there. Keeps the whole thing from falling down, I guess, yeah.
Chairs behind it just here.
They didn't? That's good.
Yeah.
That sucks. I'm behind the big pole. Does anybody have a question behind the pole? right? It's like a few more people want to come in.
Six. Oh, that's right. There were a couple towards the end I didn't count. Six. I like your pants.
Thank you. Printed pants. Let's make sure we got enough core here. I'm not sitting down because, you know, when I perform poetry, I'm always standing up. And so I can walk around and see folks. Yeah. There's no chairs behind me. That's good. 1, 2. We good? Armstrong? All right. Welcome, you guys. Welcome. How y'all doing? I'm Dante Basco. As you guys will come in, I'll just give my background in poetry. I'm a poet. You guys know me as an actor and as a voice actor, but I also been an avid poet in the Los Angeles spoken word scene for the last 20 some odd years. And so this is, you know, an extension of my poetry venue in LA, which is DPL, the Poetry Lounge. So I'll be doing a bunch of poems for you during this panel, but also because I grew up in the open mic kind of tradition of spoken word. It's not just about my stories. Poetry's always been about people sharing stories. So I want to hear some poems from some of you guys out there. And I saw there's a handful of folks out here. I'm gonna try to get a handful of you guys in between my poems. So let's begin. Yeah. This poet speaks even when I'm not spoken to. My goal is hopefully to have broken through the barriers between what is true and what is make-believe, because the truth in the poems that I make it and just make it see things more clearly. Constantly questioning that, can you hear me? Knowing that my best politicians fear me. Politic, talk, ticks. Do you feel me? Do you understand what I'm talking about? Sometimes I gotta scream and shout to get my point across, but the only way to find the right way is to first realize you're lost. This poetry is painful, searching for the rainbow, yet I share my most private, quiet conversations and tell my stories with poetic exaggerations. I am the poet, the poet, the poet. I am a poet. I'm an actor. I'm a writer. I'm a producer. I am the leader of the Lost Boys. I am the American Dragon. And I'm the Prince of the Fire Nation. I'm Dante, so let's get into some poems. Here's a poem. We start off where we all start off from. You know, this poem's called Where You From? Where are you from? Well, that's a loaded question. See, I grew up in a blue-collar town, simply meaning the blacks and the browns and me being of that category, plus my pops made less than 40. G's a year, it's clear to see that me, I be, well, blue-collar. Better yet, broke most of the time, even better, poor. But when you're young and you're poor, you don't know that you're poor. It never occurs to you that you don't have a bed, everyone sleeps on the floor. 13 in the house, 1 bathroom, someone always knocking on the door. At least it was fun. Let's get back to where we started. Where are you from? See, where I'm from, there are cops and there are gangsters, also known as gangbangers. Not unlike the cops and robbers of the movies, but unlike the movies, it's not so black and white. There are areas of gray, and that is to say, it's hard to distinguish the difference between being pulled over by a cop and being hit up by a gangster. Both evoke a bit of pain in the pit of your stomach. I think it's anger masked by shame. Maybe I get ahead of myself. Let me explain. Followed by a cop. Followed 6 blocks. Pulled over by a cop. He looked at you as if you were a mark. Where are you from? He does not wait for you to reply. Instead, he accuses you as you deny. You're from the east side. No, sir, bow your head. Don't look him in the eyes. It's embarrassing sitting on the curb watching the cars drive by. The people where I'm from, this is another part of my life. Now, when it comes to the gangbanger, all you got to be is a stranger. When he asks you where you're from, you can feel it laced with danger. So watch what you say next, because you're playing with death. So don't claim the east and don't claim the west. Matter of fact, same rules apply. Bow your head. Don't look him in the eyes. I ain't from nowhere, man. I'm just some guy. See? He too sees you as a mark. But they don't really see you, your face or your heart. All they see are marks. Now, me being me, I got a few tricks up my sleeves. Messed up situations, I got out a few of those by simply picking my nose. That's right, picking my nose. Check it. When the cop pulls up, I can feel the heat in his eyes. And when a Monte Carlo filled with gangsters pulls up next to my side, I pretend I don't see them and I casually try to pick a booger from my nose. For a second, just a moment, I'm exposed. To be a man, not a mark, a human being just like you. Don't lie, you got boogers too. Well, the cops, he just continues to roll down the street, and the gangsters, they just laugh, and then they just leave. Sometimes when you see yourself, a little bit of yourself in someone else, it could set you free. And the funny thing is, I'm probably from where they're from. The other side of town, and I'm just trying to get home. Thank you. Hand claps, finger snaps, all good. So yeah, like poems like that, and I guess it's great to do a pen because I can break down certain poems. That poem tells you I'm from a blue collar town, I live in Beverly Hills now and I live in Hollywood and do all that, but I grew up in a small blue collar town in the Bay Area. That's how I was born. When I moved to LA, I moved to another blue collar town called Paramount, which is right next door to Compton. And so growing up being pulled over by the cops, family members and living life amongst the gang areas and being a part of that, and you see it's not so black and white, the worlds that we live in, and sitting on the curb on a cart and the cops pull you over, and it's just understanding that's just the life we kind of live in, and it's all good, but when you see yourself in someone else, it does set you free, and that's kind of the point of the poem. And so we'll talk more about that kind of stuff, but I like to do fan poems too sometimes, especially for my Instagram and my Snapchat. I do short poems, so we'll kick off a few of those. Little things that go like this. I'm straight out of Neverland. Lost Boys, Captain Hook and the Peter Pan. We're all grown up, so pirates, and we kill pirates. But I don't need no gun because I'm a sword fighter. Have fun all day and we play games, but if it's gonna go down, then we bang a rang. A poem called Honor. For something lost from this place, etched into your consciousness like a scar upon your face. This honor that you chase, is it always what you thought? Matter of fact, the fact that you always had is the very reason why you set out to prove its existence from the start. Toph Bay Fung. She moves mountains, so small but so strong. Next time I go on a life-changing adventure, you're invited to come along. And then, of course, one for the girl. Sometimes the feeling of what could have been is so much stronger than what actually happened, because the memory of perfection lasts longer. And even though we didn't end up together, it'll never change the fact that you changed my life forever. Sudara. Yeah, so it's poetry hour. I did a few poems. I'll be doing poems in between people. So, who wants to do a poem? Right here, what's your name? Come on. Allison.
Hi.
Yo, are you ready?
Yeah.
Give it one time, y'all, for Allison.
So this poem's called Constellations. Teeth have always freaked me out. See, they were always in my way as a kid. I spent my childhood very aware of them. My words slipped along them, were cut by them. The lisp made them sound different than they did in other people's mouths. When I was young, I fell in love with the stars. But no word gave me more trouble than constellation. Something about the S and the T and the L sound all next to each other made it punishing to say. The word got lost somewhere in the middle, cut against my teeth and slurred on my tongue. It was hard to be so in love with something that felt so out of my reach. I spent my childhood overpronouncing, trying so hard to sound like everyone else. I got older and I practiced away my lisp, but words still sounded different in my mouth. Sharper somehow, but now by choice. I spent so much time mastering how to say them. How could I not learn to really use them? Words became my strength. I cut them along my teeth, so now I can speak in constellations.
Thank you so much, Allison. Beautiful piece. That was amazing. It's all about words. Yeah, that's so dope. That's so dope. I'll do another piece. Let's do this one. Yo, I've been to Utah. People asked what you saw. Said, yo, what I seen is things ain't righteous because they be clean. Now you wonder what I mean. Well, that weekend it was Halloween and in pretty Salt Lake City, something went down that was awfully shitty. A gang of 40 skinheads stabbed and killed a Latino kid and sent a black boy to a hospital just blocks away from where the moments of the Gospels. But the streets are clean. I'm no longer wanting to sound pretty, I'm only wanting to tell the truth because this injustice didn't even make the 8 o'clock news on Monday. I guess while praying Sunday, they forgot about the blood that sprayed and splattered that Saturday night. When we wake up, we can no longer pretend that the only thing that plagues us is a 3-letter virus spending millions to combat this while racism ravages knowing that the average man is ignorant to himself, let alone to others. I mean, how can the colors of one's skin tone motivate such harm and hate, yet this crime they're growing at an alarming rate? But I don't want to live like that. I don't want to think like that. I don't want to be like, yo, Shihan, he's my black friend, and Paul, that's my white friend, and Maria, oh, you mean the Mexican? See, color is not the first adjective I give to color the ones that I roll with. So then how do you define a man? By what he does and what he plans? Because he says no too much, or he says, yes, I can. I mean, do you follow the leader, or do you command? Are you at home and you come to bed? If you're not part of the solution, you're chilling with the Grateful Dead. Jerry Garcia wouldn't want to be you. If you're snowing come morning and here comes the sunrise, it's a universal alarm clock waking us all up, shedding light on those dumb lies, and the opening of everyone's eyes is illumination. Aha, now I see the vaccination. Simply the truth. All the things I knew in my youth, rest in peace to those who died in hate crimes that never should have happened to you. Poets, Colorado poets, hand right up here. Let's go with the yellow jacket, What's your name?
Andrew.
Andrew. Get up one time for Andrew, you got.
From an early age, we are conditioned. Conditioned to compete, conditioned to judge, always judging. Conditioned to a cause and effect mentality. If we do this, then this will happen. However, we are not taught to use our hearts. We are not taught how to smile. We are not taught how to cry. We are told this just comes naturally. But it doesn't always turn out that way. Especially if we are too busy thinking. Especially eventually we may want to use our hearts, but although we try to use our conditioned if-then principle, there is no formula to activate a heart. And so we fall. This is the plague of our world. Do you even know how to love anymore? Not desire, love. Does anyone? Desiring something and loving something are not the same thing. In fact, there may never have been two things more different. The harder you search for happiness, the further it will fall from your grasp. You will not find happiness over the next hill, beyond the next sunset, or by achieving your next goal. You may achieve recognition, but it will pass. Those who truly love you for your accomplishments will love you anyway. Is that to say that you should not strive for more? No, not at all. To strive is human. It is perhaps the most beautiful things about humanity. To strive forward is a divine quest. However, you must not fool yourself into thinking that in that quest is where happiness lies. Happiness cannot be found over the next horizon or with the next goal, and neither will self-worth. If you seek happiness, then you first must pause. Forget the cause and effect formula. It does not apply here. It is not a process, but rather a solitary thing. Sure, it can be influenced by the events around you, but ultimately it comes down to this. It either exists, or it doesn't. It is in your heart. Find it there. Because ultimately, the only one true source of happiness is you.
I kind of dig this cosplay poetry going on. Gives the poems a little extra, little something. Like the whole fur and everything. What's Jon Snow saying to me? We'll continue with the poetry, but there's a lot of people, I guess, there's a lot of poets in the house, that's great, but does anybody have any questions about poetry or anything, you guys? A lot of people that aren't into the poetry scene? Have any questions about anything? Yes, right here.
So far, I've really enjoyed all the poems.
Thank you.
But the poems they have in school are...
I know, it's hard, it's boring. I got you on that one, for sure. Yes, they are. So I started writing poetry at 15, right? And yeah, we grew up listening, in English class, and you gotta read Byron, and Shakespeare, and the sonnets, and Robert Frost, and Dickinson, all that kind of stuff, right? Mark Twain stuff. They're not, I think, when you go at them originally, they are boring, you don't kind of understand. Now going back, older and more kind of seasoned as just a person, but also in the poetry scene, you're able to kind of go back and kind of see what they're doing as writers, or how they're, for me, and what you realize with them is they're just digesting their world, right? It's like whatever's going on around you. Love and heartbreak, racism, it's turbulence, times going on right now. There's so much for us to talk about, and they were just talking about that in their times, in their way. And we, it was boring because we didn't really know a lot of what was going on for these poets in their time, whether it be, whatever, 1800s or even like the 20s or the 40s. But as we kind of get more knowledge about that, and you see all the correlations, what they're talking about, it really gets more fascinating. But yeah, I'm with you. It's super. What broke it for me was Charles Bukowski. So Charles Bukowski, amazing poet, and I rhyme a lot in my poetry. He's a blank verse kind of writer, but also he's like the end of the beat generation kind of. But he also is from San Pedro, California. So I lived in Paramount. San Pedro was like 3 or 4 cities over. I know San Pedro, right? And I'm like, this guy's writing about stuff that I see. And I'm like, that's poetry? Like the guy, he'll write about like the girl who's drunk from last night, still sitting on the bench curb, in the morning, just messed up, and how she looked. And I was like, I've seen that. And he's like, that's poetry. I'm like, oh my God. Like everything that we see is poetry there's something of beauty or darkness in it all. And then that's kind of what cracked it for me. And I read more Bukowski, and it really just validated that what I see in the world is poetry too. So yeah, I know the old masters, when you are introduced to it in that way, can be a far stretch because it doesn't feel like it connects to your life. But as you start writing more, and as you start seeing the world a certain way, then you can kind of connect to how they're seeing the world in their life in those days, and that's the connection. There was another question over here? No question? Any question? Yes?
Okay, so I don't know much about your poetry organization.
Yeah?
But do you do any, workshops?
Yeah, I'm doing a workshop at Purdue University next week. So I do poetry, stuff like that, and do workshops.
Because, with the whole school thing, I didn't really like poetry at all because I felt it was really boring until I took a slam poetry class at my school. And, as soon as I realized, what you were saying is that it's all the emotions that you have, it's all the things
Totally.
that you see. It doesn't have to be boring,
And slam poetry is different, right? When you take the slam poetry class, which is great, spoken word slam poetry, however you want to look at it, is it's a combination of the written poetry, which is a certain art and a certain craft, and then there's the performance of it, which is a certain art and a certain craft, and ultimately you hopefully get a good balance of both, because there's a lot of great slam poets, and when you actually go and read their poems, you're like, what is this poem about? And there's a lot of great poets that can write beautiful poetry, but then to perform it is arduous for them, where it can't really transcend with the performance. So when we do the classes for spoken word and slam, it's like we're trying to work on the poem itself. Like, why did you write this poem? What's the main point of it? What's the single most important line? What are you trying to convey? And then the actor side of me is like, get on the stage and tell the story. Because it doesn't matter if a poem is 4 lines long, it's a story there. There's almost a beginning, middle, and end there should be of every poem, because you're just telling. It goes back to we're just storytellers, and so yeah, purple.
So I teach middle school.
That's cool.
It has to stay.
They call you by your first name or last name?
Sorry, what?
Did students call you by your first name or last name?
Last name of this school.
That's cool. That's how it should be.
There's a lot of middle school students who have trouble accessing both the vocabulary and the feelings in order to write good poetry. What are a couple of things that you do that you would recommend that people think about as they get into writing poetry?
First and foremost, just stream of thought writing. Just write. just sit there and like look around the room or whatever and just write. Get used to writing. Get used to expressing yourself through words. Because a lot of times we don't, you know what I'm saying? Writers do because you get used to it. A lot of us just feel feelings or have especially when you're young and you just have these feelings, but if you can kind of start writing about it and looking at it outside of yourself, it's just that stream of consciousness. It may start with just talking about nonsense, but ultimately your mind may get to it, to exactly how you feel and what you're saying. So, like some simple exercises are like 5 minutes a day to just go, let me just sit down and start for 5 minutes a day and just write whatever in 5 minutes, and then that will ultimately get longer and longer, and then you'll get more and more focused. Yes, right there in the back, yeah.
Why did you get into the poetry scene?
Originally, girls like poetry. No, I mean, I'm 15, you're falling in love for the first time. I grew up a part of the hip-hop generation, so rap and music has always been a part of my life. And I had a rap band for a lot of years, but I started writing poetry. Same time, Dead Poets Society came out. I really loved Dead Poets Society. It was very impactful to me. I talked a lot about that with Robin Williams when I worked with him on Hook. I got him a hat made at Compton Indoor Swap Meet, because back in those days you go to Compton Indoor and you get like these hats made up. And I got my captain on the hat, and gave it to him. And he gave me for the rap present. It's a rap, like when you rap movies, we have like rap presents, and he gave me a really beautiful leather-bound book of Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass, which is, these are transcendental poets. It's all part of the Poet Society. So initially, just to express myself, because I was going through a lot at 15, and then also just hitting up a lot of the poetry venues in Los Angeles in the 90s because girls were there. And it was good to get on the mic and rock some poems. We'll do another question or two before we do some more poems. Yeah, right here in the redhead.
All right, so I am a writer, but it's more long, like novelist, but I'd like to write more poetry.
Yeah, prose are good.
Yeah, like I have very lyrical prose, but I don't know how to, do poetry, and I kind of like to, especially slam poetry, because
Right.
I like to be on the stage as well. And also, as you mentioned, girls like poetry.
Girls like poetry. I mean, the parameters of slam poetry is 3 minutes, right? So your pieces would be 3 minutes in competition. So that's like a hard parameter for you to think about. But to get your mind to think about that way, just think about your story that you're going to tell in a prose way or in a novelistic way. A piece of it, or a short story. It's a short story, So just think about it like that, and the more you do it, the more, you don't have to be perfect the first few times out. You just kind of like, it doesn't matter anyway, you're just telling your story. Even if you go too long, they're like, shh, get off the stage, like, all right, my bad, I'll tell you guys the rest later. We'll do one more question, we'll do some more poems. Yeah, right next to you, what is it?
Have you ever thought about starting a podcast and listening to poetry on there?
Yeah, podcast. I love podcasts. I've been super into podcasts lately, and it's something I've thought about. It's just a lot more. The great podcasts. I love like Radio Lab and Things You Should Know and Reply All, and I listen to these things weekly. It's just a lot of work to kind of produce it in a good way. But poetry there's something that we're playing with as a possibility. So we'll do some more questions, and we'll do some more poems. So. You want to do a question or a poem?
I was going to ask a question.
I'll do a question then.
Whenever you want to start a new poem, what do you normally do to take that first step?
Usually it haunts me, something happens, right? And I'm like, oh, and I want to write about that, and I'll be talking to myself in the car or walking around, and if I talk to myself enough about something, it's going to become a poem. It may start with just like a line or two, and then it becomes an actual poem. So I'll do a poem. This is kind of adult matter, but we're cool. This could have been our 18 and over panel last night, but this is a story about something. Everyone looks of age. Cool. There's been so much political stuff, I'll just do some girl stuff. Or Or kind of, well, you can listen to it. I knew this girl named Nikki, I guess you could say she was a sex fiend. I mean, she was a dancer. Well, actually a stripper, and it's to say to see her naked, you have to pay. Anyway, one night I was in a devious mood, rendezvous with my boys to the club up the street. $10 a head, 18 and over, you must have ID. So there I sit in the seedy joint, sipping flat soda, tripping with fear, wondering what my mom thinks she ever caught me in. Then out comes this girl. Petite physique, body was perfect to me, see, and there I was, caught in a moment. I'm looking at her, looking at me. Something strong I sensed as she danced, removing articles of clothing off her body, but not once removing her eyes off of me, and I felt that either she was the greatest dancer in the world, or somehow we managed to touch something real. A connection. Something pure, something powerful, a purely powerfully animalistic connection. Now let me continue, I want to get in you, but let me slow down. See, the show ends and she comes to talk to me, and of course I play the shy role, and she bites you, and yo, you don't even know the half of it. See, she went up at my crib to see if I could take a stab at it, and we get into the dance, and we move together, and we fit like puzzle pieces to an erotic portrait as it may appear, and then she whispers in my ear, pull my hair. And so I do. And she says harder, and not at the roots, but at the ends, because it hurts more. But I never wanted to hurt her, I wanted to love her tenderly. But somehow I didn't think she would let me. And somehow I didn't think she would let me. And then that's when she got on me and she says, choke me. And I was like, All of a sudden I'm in this artsy S&M documentary of some sort with this girl riding me, pushing me to the limits of my sexuality. And I stopped for a second and be like, yo, I don't do that. And that started the rest of the match. So we tossed and tumbled like cubs on, like lion cubs on play on the Discovery Channel. Yeah, he was like animals. And she wound up on top of me again and she's like, hit me. And I was like, oh shit. But I got to admit, I was a little lit. I mean, high on her. See, she intoxicates me. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I say, what the fuck? And with the palm of my hand, like raise the skin on her chin, oh so gently still. And she says, harder. And I don't know what to do. Because I'm not the kind of guy who hits girls, and I didn't know why this would even be getting her off, but we were playing chess. And she put me in check. So I slapped her on the cheek, and we tore each other apart in the dark until we arrived. And I don't know what she saw, but me, I was blinded by white lights, lying naked, quivering next to her. We escape ourselves and each other. Yeah, I know a girl named Nikki. I guess you could say she was a sex fiend, but don't judge her or me. It's just a place I've been. Thank you. Thank you. I'm in the middle of the poem and I see a child run across the room. I'm like, oh my God! A child came from behind the cinder block thing. Child, cover your ears. I got choked up for a second. Is that an apparition or is it a small child? I'm talking about exotic dancers right now. I bet you didn't understand any of that. So, we're gonna keep this rocking. Poets, Colorado poets, right here. How you doing? What's your name?
I'm Brandon.
Brandon, y'all give it one time for Brandon.
Hello? Yeah, I've never spoken this before, but it's called Panic. It's just an awkward conversation, yet elegant in its arrangement, candidly complex, but frankly downright indirect. You speak in rhymes and riddles while I sincerely speak my heart. My soul so paralyzed in trespass, while doubt is pulling me apart. So I might be meandering through my own mind, imprisoned by my conscience. I'm a temporal concubine. Redesign all my conceptions, apprehend my expectations, sedate these elated iterations in my desperation. My soul rips through my physiology. My breath extinguished in eternity. Instants stretch into infinity, and atoms expand beyond immensity. It's just an existential crisis, all of substances and lysis, vacant being, absent-minded, mortal anguish, grim misguidance. Fear contests my human theories, infects my feeble expertise. This panic-stricken inner struggle, my core implodes, my knees just buckle. But this might be that deep breath before the plunge. Inhalation heavy like lead congests my lungs. But sacred drumming fills the silence, cardio cadence, rhythmic guidance, dispose of carnal compliance to oppose my own defiance. My soul rips through my physiology, my breath extinguished in eternity. Instants stretch into infinity, and atoms expand beyond immensity. Desire smolders to tranquility, pride collapsed under humility. Love consumes all of antipathy. Yahweh erases all deficiency.
Brandon, y'all give it for Brandon. Brandon, y'all. Like that. Romantic. Yahweh. I love listening to the posts. I like to listen to how they talk and their cadence and their vocabulary and how they, we all describe the world differently. You know what I'm saying? We can all write a poem about the same thing, and it's just that thing. It's like we all write about love, but it's like, there's a million ways to write about it. Maybe more. It's still love. So thank you. Brandon, y'all. Give it to Brandon. Questions? Any questions? Yeah.
I have a question, and that is just, I noticed like with slam poetry, there's a lot of similarities to like the kind of the way people say them. And I don't really, is there a way to explain why?
Yeah, it's just trends. Poets get popular, and then of course like younger poets come up and they're so inspired by certain poets that they end up emulating is a good word. I didn't know I was gonna say something probably worse than that, but emulating is a good word. And that's just like with any artist, right? People that draw, filmmakers, actors, we're all guilty of it as we're coming up and we're learning. The people that we're inspired by, we just take on a lot of what they're doing. And it's a place, there's a place for that, but ultimately, the more you write, the more you create, the more you find your own voice. And it may have traces of the people you look up to, which it should. I mean, like anything, there's lineage. There's lineage of artists, right? It's like so many American actors we come off of Brando, to Dean, to Monty Cliff, to De Niro, Pacino, Hoffman. It's like you could trace all the actors, like the bloodline. It's the same thing with poets. You could trace the bloodline of where the poets kind of come from. So that's what it is, and that's fine. But ultimately, you want to hopefully transcend your, the people you look up to, and find your own voice. Over here with the beard.
Yes. All right. 2 questions. One
Yes.
quick. Aren't you supposed to snap instead of clap?
You could, in the 90s was a big snapping thing. We like snaps. You can do either or. Whatever.
The other thing was I was just going to ask, what it's like to work with Robin Williams, poetry or otherwise.
It's great. Robin was a big supporter of me doing poetry. Like I tell you, he gave me that book, and Robin Williams is great guy, right? Where he's this amazing. He is the genie from Aladdin. Like that much energy and that much magic is possible whenever he's around. And when we did Hook, you're talking about the biggest film in town, and you're talking about hundreds of people, the cast and crew, and we worked for like 8 months. It's like super long. It's like double the length of any movie. And it's so fun to shoot movies, but at the same token, we're working 14 hours, 16 hours a day. And when you have someone like Robin Williams on set, he's there keeping the morale of everybody on the set, going. He's funny, and he knows everybody's name, and he's joking, and these long hours, you forget how long and how hard you're working because you have Robin Williams around, and he's having so much fun, and he's crazy. But then at the same token, I would spend mornings with him, and he's very soft-spoken and quiet, and we would sit in the makeup and hair trailer, and we talk about poetry, and we'd say, read this, check this out, and I'm writing this, so I did this, and this is that relationship. It's very, as a young writer, it's very important for someone you look up to look at you as a young writer and support your vision and your voice. And so I credit, a great deal my success in the poetry world and the magic that has happened in it, to the support of Robin Williams, for sure. Just someone of that magnitude kind of looking at me and seeing me as a poet and going, yeah, man, write poetry. Woo women. Here's what he told me. Poetry is to woo women. I'm like, yes, Robin, you're right. So, we'll get some more poems. We'll get another poet up here. Poet? Right here? Right here? What's your name?
Finn.
Finn?
Yeah, like
Ladies,
a fish.
like a fish. Ladies and gentlemen, give it one time for Finn.
A crisp November night, sky a rich royal blue, city lights twinkling in the distance, plains spread out all around, whispering adventure in the darkness, a love affair of nature and man, forming a beauty unparalleled, and me, a squeaky toy with a double chin, ruining the moonlight's kiss, taking a night that should be a painting and coughing blood and mucus on it, ripping apart the silence with hacking, killing the cool with a burning headache. Blue turned to black, like your lungs, or at least what I imagine. They say it's the slowest form of suicide, so I guess it makes sense why you do it. You've spent your whole life dying. We all have. In this big, empty house where no one speaks except in screaming. And I sit alone in my room, night after night, crying out in pain, but do nothing, say nothing. And you lay in your bed, day after day, waiting for something to change, but you stay stagnant, nothing, going nowhere. And you wonder why I don't listen to you, why I only listen to fear. Maybe because I don't respect either of you. So the only way to get me to obey is to yell and scream and throw things at me. Maybe then I won't turn out like my sister. Maybe I'll be the good kid, go off to college and live a happy fucking life with my heterosexual marriage and biological children. Maybe then you'll feel fulfilled once I become as sad and useless as you. You want me to be happy. You want me to find love. You want me to live the life you wish you had. And yet, you poison me with your words and the thoughts you plant in my brain. And of course, on that crisp November night, sky a rich royal blue, city lights twinkling in the distance, and you puffing out the nicotine and leaving it burning my throat, coughing until I taste blood, and we drive silently home as I roll the windows down. I'd prefer an asthma attack over one moment stuck in the passenger seat, breathing in your regrets.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Wow, really great poets out here in Colorado. That's beautiful, beautiful piece. I mean, yeah, man, like truth. Like you can hear it, you can feel it, right? That's what I love about poetry. It's like a little piece of someone's truth. It brings you there. Description, right? Description, like the way you describe the night, the stars. It's like you're there for that moment, and that's really what drew me. When I started going to Poetry Lounge outside the girls, which the girls are cool. It was the poems. I mean, the poems. Being able to be in someone else's shoes for even 3 minutes, you know, to feel like perception and perspective and your truth. I always tell people the first poem, like, I was in a poetry venue and it was, this girl was talking about seeing her mom, domestic violence with her mom and her dad. And, you know, she had this description of she'll never forget how red the blood was as it dripped down the avocado cream refrigerator. And it's like, I'm there. It's like, all of a sudden you're there. Like, there's moments in your home too, like, you're just there. You're just in the car with you and your dad, and That's the beauty of poetry. So, thank you, Finn. So we have a little more time. I'll do a poem. We have 10 minutes, so I'll do some poems, and I'll get one more poet up here, and then I'll close it out. But here's a poem. Thoughts swim around my mind. Thoughts swim around my mind. Now ask yourself, who's this kid that stands before me? Hope he doesn't bore me quick. Stick him in another category. Well, shit, he really doesn't fit in any. Brown like a copper penny, and with Asiatic eyes, I see to my surprise, he's got a black nose. But on the real, I am a Filipino. And to break it down further still, I will tell you I descend from an island where the natives run around nearly naked named Negritos. Translation, little black men. Black as their shadows in the glorious sun, but they came a Chinaman, maybe it was Japan, who mixed in the Asiatic blood. Drip, drop, drip, rips my tribal. Here comes the Bible of a man from Spain who left me with a Spanish name from a little conquered islands where I came. Confused, I question, yet I wound up here where I found joy, recognize I am a brown boy in America. A place where you are judged by the color of your skin, black, white, and here I am, standing on the land of another brown man. Now that's irony that I can see. Thoughts swim around my mind, you got to give me time on this. Thoughts swim around my mind, but my grandpa says just throw your line and fish. And when I say I'm fishing, it means I'm searching for a deeper meaning, a stronger feeling, realizing everything I'm seeing isn't what it's seeming. The world in which we live and the religion I was raised on now raises questions. Question everything they tell you, don't buy everything they try to sell you. Promises of heaven was this life of living hell, throwing me in here to tell you that the religion that they want me to believe in got me subconsciously accepted before I was saved by that Jesus Christ, I was a heathen. Me and the Africans, and Indians, and Mexicans, and Dominicans, and Koreans, and all the other Asians, and I can never do that because somewhere in the back of my mind I have to hate myself forever because I know I'll never look like their God, but God, I ain't mad at you because God, I know the truth. I am you. Like you are me. Like I am them, like they're us, like yo, this is who we are. See, some speak of the revolution and they say it won't be televised in the right because the revolution's going on. It's a revolution of the mind, and this revolution is not a black or white thing or in between the rich and poor. It's those who are awake and those who are asleep, and this is the wake-up call. So wake up, y'all. Wake up, y'all, before we fall. Wake up, wake up. Wake up, Uncle Sam! You are a relative of mine, but your wife is a hoe. You beat her and cheated, though, when I fear you may murder her. And furthermore, you and I live in a time of no good guys ask would I consider their friends look at people of color as niggas. Shh. I'm like, F the police. Furthermore, F this country. Do you know how it feels to live young and hungry and angry? People looking at me like they want to hang me. Why do you make me want to elevate above you? You make me hate you when I should love you. Because when you break it down into the biology, I see that we're the same, and that's the God in me, the God in me, the God in me, God in me, part of me. The God in us. In God we trust. Ashes to ashes and dust to dust. Woo! What's up? Thank you. Yeah, I lost the mic there for a second, but you know, just keep rocking. You have a question?
I was wanting to go. But...
You want to go? Come up to the stage. We might have time to get 2 poets in. And what's your name?
I'm Kaylee.
Kaylee?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it one time for Kaylee.
A bela luta, Portuguese, the beautiful struggle. Just because you never talk about it doesn't make it go away. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it isn't there. Just because you can't hear it doesn't mean it's silent. There's something funny about mental illness. And when I say funny, I don't mean having one, because there's nothing funny. There's nothing funny about it. When I say funny, it's not. And by God, we are sick of being your punchline. What I mean is mental illness itself. It's like the elephant in the room, staring you right in the face, but again and again you turn your back on it because for some reason, we can't talk about it right now. There's something strange about mental illness. And when I say strange, I don't mean having one, because there's nothing strange about different kinds of thoughts, and there isn't anything wrong with it either. Just something a little bit different. What I mean is the way we see mental illness. It's everywhere, teeming and thriving in abundance, and yet you still know nothing about it because the only difference between OCD and PTSD is a page number, and yet one of them is an absolute joke. Just because you can't feel it doesn't mean it isn't valid. Just because you don't have it doesn't mean it isn't real. Just because you aren't fighting it doesn't mean it's not a war. There's something quiet about mental illness. When I say quiet, I don't mean having one, because there's nothing quiet about feeling like you're losing yourself to the soldiers committing treason in your own mind. And it's not quiet when you're a glass of lemonade shattering on the cold tile floor. What I mean is the way we pretend it is, seeing it in faded monochrome, muted in the background as if it isn't controlling our every move instead of us controlling it. There's something beautiful about mental illness. And when I say beautiful, I don't mean having one, because there's nothing pretty about wondering if you're real or hating yourself. And for heaven's sake, we are sick of being romanticized. What I mean is the struggle against mental illness, when you face it head on and realize that this is not your fault and this is not your choice. You can hate it for all it's done to you, for all the torture and pain it's put you through, but don't ever hate yourself for what it's done to you. Fight it with every cell, every synapse. Fight it and beat it, because if I can do it, so can you. This is a struggle, and it's going to dismantle you again and again as you piece yourself back together, but never stop fighting, because together, you and I can find the beauty in this struggle. Thank you.
We'll do one. Zuko, come here. We'll do one more last poem with Zuko before I close it out, because we're about to run out of time. And it's Zuko. How you doing?
Scars on the wrong side.
Layla. Give it one time for Layla, you guys.
Don't tell me the scar's on the wrong side. It's there on purpose.
You can tell me it's on the wrong side, and I can say the star's not on the wrong side. I don't think that's gonna work.
Does this work? Okay. In the beginning, light and dark were one. In the beginning, sky and land and water were one. In the beginning, we were the planet. Silt-laden and too hot, we were all of us dark and holy, and dark was matter, neither void nor absence. In the beginning, we were dark, and we were everywhere. Then came the Word. On the first day, the Word said, "Let there be light and dark." We came together into gods of dark skin: Kali, Krishna, Shiva, Oshun, Yamaya, Isis, Shunwu, Hestia, dark because they absorbed all the light. In the beginning, there was darkness. Then the stars began to take root in abducted soil, claiming the only beginning was theirs. By the seventh day, there was no rest. Not for those whose skin matches with God. To be a person of color means work constantly. On the seventh day, God was bleached. White Jesus was etched in Spanish glass. Spain brought Catholicism to the Philippines, along with melanin as hierarchy: negrito, low class, darky, slave. On the seventh day, humanity twisted the word. The word became white God, black demon, white innocent, black soul, white lie, forgivable, black hole, hungry, light, cannot escape, white, in danger, see, brought into the light, read, educated. Before night was black, it was empty. And emptiness did not mean sorrow then, it was space and quiet. Before black was my father's skin, it was night. It was the hour we danced when he got home from work. See, dark, you read, evil deeds are done in, I read, family, God was robbed of his darkness by the same conquistadors who robbed my people of their surnames, grave robbers, calling the sin of theft curiosity or archaeology, painting the sin of colonization of exploration before original sin. There was no need to sleep. After the fall, Adam and Eve began to die slowly. The first night of recovery must have been terrifying. The black night became brutal only because humanity lost control of its body. Darkness is an opening through which pain leaves the body. Open your eyes in a dark room and breathe deeply, and you will see what I mean. Whiteness can be a straitjacket. Blackness is tender. There is no light in the womb. I do not need a reversal of meaning. White bone, dead, black soil, fertile, white dust, desiccated, black hole, bright, white bleach, poison, black skin, beautiful. Call your feeling what it is. Call it honest ignorance, call it fear of the unknown, call it insufficient optical stimulation. Do not call it dark. Blackness is not your most accessible metaphor. Black holes can glow so brightly that they defeat their own gravity. Blackness is the paradox of absorbing so much light it overflows from your pores, yet is still called invisible. Blackness is the destruction that leaves space for creation. The darkness inside you is the most intimate secret you need to unearth. The thing you need to build your life around has twisted from the fear it was smothered under. Let it revive through the cycles of dark and light. The darkness we wear is the mark of belonging. And the darkness sweeping black night over the horizon means only this: it's about time we all headed home.
All right, we're out of time, so I'll just end with this quick little poem. Thank you all the poets that came out today. I loved hearing everybody's stories. And so this last little poem goes like this. I wanted to write a poem to save the world and call it love, because it's what the world needs now, and what there's just too little love. But that seemed to be too complex for most, too intangible, so undefinable, so often unattainable. So I had to simplify and simply say, give. Give. Give, 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 give a penny, give a dime, give a second of your time to simply give a smile. Give some good advice to a child. Give because you want to, not because you have to. Give because you can. Give a damn. Give because you're a man or a woman who is able to give. Sometimes when you give, it may hurt, you may bleed, but it is better to give than it is to receive. Give more than what you paid for. And when you think you've given all you can afford, try to give just a little bit more. Give. Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much. Have a good rest of you guys gone.